Hello everybody, welcome back to another video for the day. Now we're going right back into r/MaliciousCompliance because, you know, karma's good. How my father got out of so many speeding tickets they had to change the law. I'm smelling a little bit of mad lad in here. My father has been a lawyer here in BC, Canada for more than 30 years. When he was starting out in his 30s, he was hustling hard to support a stay-at-home wife and me, his young son. As he was very much a type A personality with not much patience, he sped on the highways often, and he got speeding tickets often. However, he took every single one to court and had every single one overturned. The reason was quite simple. At the time, Canada was in the process of switching over from imperial miles per hour to metric kilometers per hour, and all of the road signs had to be replaced. Now, the BC legal code specified that a road sign was legally comprised of two signs on a pole. See below for a better explanation of the way the signs looked. Apparently, at some point, someone in charge of replacing all of the signs with the new metric ones decided that they could save a considerable amount of money by printing all the information on one side, but this no longer complied with the specifics of the legal code, so he could go back to the exact sign that was ticketed because of it and take a picture of it and then bring the picture to court along with a copy of the laws in question. His defense was very simple. He would allow the arresting officer to take the stand and give his testimony regarding the issue of the speeding ticket, and then show the officer the picture he took and ask them to identify whether that was the sign that he had just sped past. They always agreed, saying that it was in fact the very same sign. He thanked them and then dismissed them with no further questions. He would then bring the picture to the judge along with a bookmark page of the BC Highway Act and present the judge with the exact wording of the law, followed by his factual argument that since there was only a single sign posted, it did not constitute a legal road sign as defined by the Highway Act. As I said before, every single ticket was dismissed and all my dad lost was a half an hour of his time. This worked for almost a decade, with him overturning literally thousands of dollars of speeding tickets until the law was changed. He still speeds, by the way. TLDR, bureaucrat cuts cost on road signs, but they no longer fit the legal definition, so my dad speeds like a freaking madman for years with zero consequences. Is this like the adult version of when you play a game with your friends and they're so good and they exploit the system that you have to suddenly change rules just to have your advantage? It's kind of like when I was little and I was playing Smash Bros with my friends. I played so much Yoshi, they told me I couldn't play Yoshi. Okay, Mr. Lawyer, I will. TLDR, lawyer tried to hardball my client. I proved his client committed a statutory offense and got what I wanted, plus damages, and dobbed his client in. So I work as a specialist property valuer. A few years ago, a real estate agent friend approached me on behalf of his client. His client was a bookseller who operated a specialist bookshop on the 7th floor of a city building, a one-man band small business. Nice bloke. Unfortunately, a nice bloke had decided to renew his lease for 5 years and signed the new lease without getting advice. His new building owner enacted the market rent review clause and jacked up his rent by something like 50%. Tells nice bloke your new rent for the next 5 years is X. Nice bloke is distraught, he can't afford it, so he asked nicely to rescind the lease and he will move elsewhere. Estate agent friend has found a cheaper place for him. Denied by the building owner says that he will also sue if he breaks the lease. So the agent asks me to review the case. I look through the case and nice bloke is stuffed. The lease is locked tight so they can justify it for jacking up the rent. I think our only hope is to appeal to the mercy of the building owner's lawyer. So I call him and ask for a release, a penalty fee for my client. Mr. Lawyer says, stiff cheddar, you need to comply with the law. Try reading the lease. The real arrogant a-hole. Cue malicious compliance. Okay, I will. I read through the lease and note that all the references to the Retail Lease Act have been crossed out. Fair enough, the act only applies to retail tenancies if they are below the 3rd floor of the building. Nice bloke is on level 7. Act should not apply. But hold up, I'm gonna check that. I call the Small Business Commission who administers the act, and they advise that if you retail a good like books, it doesn't matter what floor you're on, the act applies. You could be on the friggin' roof if you want. The level 3 provision only applies if you retail a service. That means the building owner has breached the act and failed to comply with the law. There's a certain things that you have to provide before signing a lease and timing that they have to follow. A breach is no small thing. I get a ruling from the commission. I call for mediation with Mr. Lawyer. Present are Mr. Lawyer, building owner, and the agent and nice bloke and me. I again plead for the penalty fee release, no dice, and they threaten to sue. I gently slide the ruling across the table to Mr. Lawyer. Okay, well, as per your suggestion, I read the lease, and we have the ruling that proves the act applies to the lease. Your clients failed to comply with the act and committed a statutory offense. Okay, we will grant you a penalty fee release. Oh, we don't need that. We enact our right under the act to terminate the lease, penalty fee, and to seek damages for the landlord's breach of their statutory obligations, and I'll be reporting the breach to the commission. No need for all that, let's just tear up the lease. police. Sorry, that wouldn't be complying with the law, would it? I mean, they made the rules, you just played the rules against them, and then that's apparently not going to end up good for them. There are no photos whatsoever on this Reddit, but I can just imagine the smug on his face for him proving the other person wrong on that. Why do I need to watch your kids at a convention? I'm a big war games player, and a local store used to buy tickets and rent a bus to bring people to a Games Workshop convention in Baltimore, Games Day. The cost they charge covers the bus and a one-day ticket. The only caveat is that kids under 16 with a note and an older buddy had to have at least one adult with them who was also paying full entry on the idea that the parent would stay with their child. This was made explicit in following years. Now, the convention was located in the prime shopping area of Baltimore waterfront, so every year there are a few parents who come to go shopping. Usually, though, they have a few other parents who agree to watch the younger ones, though. The year this took place, my friend Hal and I ended up going. Keep in mind that we're both in our mid-20s. So as we go through our morning at the convention, we noticed that a familiar group of boys were following us. When we were asked, we were told, "We should stay with you two because you're responsible." None of their parents were in sight, or on the site as it turns out. Most of them were cool, at least as cool as 10-year-olds can be to someone in their mid-20s. Ages were from 8 to 16. We ended up grouping them up with an older kid as an assistant buddy and took them with us. It's not like their parents were around for us to give them back after all, and we knew most of them from the shop. Made sure they got turns at different events. Nothing at the convention could be called inappropriate, and generally made the best of it. But hey, we were still a bit angry at having them foisted upon us without being asked. Well, it turns out none of them were given enough money for lunch. They had their own money, which they spent on swag, but the cash their parents gave them wasn't enough to cover an actual lunch at the convention at all. It averaged about $3 per kid when that was the price of a soda. Yeah, pro tip when you're going to cons, never buy the food at the convention, go into the local areas. You'll spend about the third of what you normally would at the con. So, Hal and I took all of their lunch cash and took them to Hooters. Used that money and some of our own to make sure the waitresses were extra attentive and had them at their own table. We sat nearby to keep an eye on them, had them order whatever they wanted that a kid could legally get, no booze of course, and between the restaurant being mostly dead and the fact that Hal and I were tipping as well, meant there were buxom, scantily clad women around constantly, almost a 2-to-1 ratio, kid to waitress. They must have eaten 5 platters of wings before they had enough, not including the ones they ordered but they didn't like, usually because it was too spicy. Those got bagged up in a cooler bag, told them it wasn't an issue, just ordered something they did like. At the end, we picked up the tab, but not before calling trip organizer Jim to let him know what had happened. Was told it wouldn't be an issue and to get him a receipt. So we get the group scrubbed up, helped by an assistant buddies, and back to the convention and finished the afternoon. So we got back to the bus and gave Jim the receipt for lunch as well as any other necessary items, mostly beverages, gotta keep hydrated, that we bought them afterwards, just for them, not our bills. We paid for our lunch separately, for example. The bus was set to leave at 6 p.m. and we were told to be back at 5 p.m. just in case, because the trip would leave full or not. So around 5:30, the parents start coming back in, only to meet Jim at the front. He refused to let them on until they paid us back for watching their kids. Told them that if they didn't pay by 6, the bus would be leaving and that they would still owe the tab. One parent asked for a delay to hit an ATM and was granted permission to go. Jim told the rest that the bus would leave when that dad got back. A few other parents asked to see the bill, which is where they discovered that we took their precious angels to Hooters, never mind the fact that we were at a convention about a game where people kill aliens with chainswords. Jim informed them that if they had gotten to Hal and I before the convention started, then maybe they would have learned about our lunch plans and could have watched their kids themselves. Didn't shut up the few Karens in the group, but it reduced most of it to grumbling. About this point, the first dad came back and asked his share, he was told, and left most of the parents in shock. They apparently didn't have that much cash still on them, and Jim wasn't going to give them any more time. Pay up the board or stay behind and pay later. The first dad offered to lend money to the rest, not a guy you want to owe money from, what I gather, with some accepting, the rest finding cash in purses and wallets. Jim ended up handing us $500, almost $200 for the children, the rest he charged them as kidtainment fee. Jim, my boy, I love your work ethics. You honestly kind of wonder what is it that causes a Karen to become a Karen and a Gerald to become a Gerald. I don't know what the male equivalent of Karen is, just Gerald was the first name to come to mind. The part that I really do like about this story is that it's in a location I have actually been to frequently. It's the Baltimore Inner Harbor, like Baltimore, Maryland. I can actually admit, I have been to the Hooters there in Baltimore before. Unfortunately, it's the only one that's within range of me, and go for the food. Don't go for the waiters or waitresses. I'm sorry, dude, I have no idea what you were doing hyping up the staff there. It had been a little while since I've been to that Hooters, so maybe something's changed. Like maybe they put the double D burger on the menu. I don't get why they took that off. But with that, that is going to have to be it for the video. If you would like what you had seen, be sure to slam that like button. If you're so something in the video you would like to discuss with the other people watching, leave a comment down below on it and start talking with the other people that are watching. And if you have not already, subscribe to the channel, slam that button, become part of the amazing notification squad that has been chatting up down in the comments in previous videos, and I will be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye bye.